Yeah, this shouldn't go on too long, huh?
We are online.
Molto bene, very well. Haha! Haha! Giuliano!
Daft Punk.
Daft Punk.
Daft Punk.
You just Daft Punked me. Why are we wearing helmets again?
In honor of Daft Punk.
Okay. Sounds good.
The news is they just split up.
I had no idea. Why did they do that?
Kyo.
They had enough of others copying their styles.
Oh, so we are actually dishonoring them.
Well, it was just to mention that the song Around the World is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, the Daft Punk are amazing. Having said that, please tell me everything you know about numbers.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
What would you like to know? Where should we begin?
Where should we begin? What's the point of numbers in the first place?
Oh, Francesco.
Ramon.
Francesco Ramon.
Yes.
The point of numbers. Well, they're just a naturally occurring thing.
How does the mind naturally conceive numbers?
Like that. And there's one. There's two.
No, yes, I can see that. But I guess my question is, in history, numbers didn't originated for like a while. Like people came to the realization of number because of a need. And like, for instance, if you think
need? What do you define a need?
like they had to count things. But when they didn't need to count things, they had no numbers.
But then again, what is a need?
That was my question.
Do they need to? You need to communicate. You want to communicate. It's part of communication. It's part of being specific.
To me, numbers are a way to reverse engineer the universe.
Reverse engineer the universe.
That's how I see numbers.
I think we should talk about that.
I mean, that, yeah. Okay, let's talk about it's the same thing anyway. Because everything is the same thing of everything else in the bigger picture that the universe is.
Okay. All right. You want to expand on that?
Everything is made of the same shit. Like the matter and the whatever is that floating around, not floating, but the matrix of everything can be translated into numbers. Think about programming, right? Like you have complex coding languages, and then you have like stuff that is closer to the, you know, like you can use, I don't know, object programming, but then you can use also like I don't know,
procedural programming.
Yes, but then
functional programming.
Yes,
there's a few different.
Yes, but how would you call like C?
Procedural.
And how would you call like assembler?
That's procedural too.
But it's like it goes deeper.
Yes, it goes deeper into electronic circuits at some stage.
And then if you keep going deeper, you get like writing ones and zeros.
Well, you don't get ones and zeros at that stage. You've got electrical impulses. So you're below the ones and zeros layer.
But to
quantify all this, to communicate it, to think about it, you need a rules system or to codify it. And that's where numbers come in to some extent.
My point is that you could write the same software just typing ones and zeros, as well as like you achieve the same results eventually, but it takes you like exponentially longer time because the communication is more or less efficient based on the communication system.
Wait, what? No, I can't just write ones and zeros and do the same thing I can in C with assembler. Like you're just talking about different layers of abstraction.
Why can't you?
It
would take you longer, but it's
sure
possible.
Sure, but what's this got to do with numbers again?
It's the same thing. Like if you see the universe and you go like smaller and smaller and smaller in scale, everything comes down to numbers.
Oh, it does. All right, you advertised me as someone that knows a bit about maths, so I feel like I should give you a bit of something mathematical that you're kind of making me think of, and I should probably know a bit more about this, but I don't. There's something fun you might like. I think it's called the fundamental theory of arithmetic, I think.
I like the sound of it.
And this is a fun concept in mathematics.
Can we look it up?
That
Fundamental
says,
theory of...
Well, let me have a guess first, so if I'm wrong, we can laugh at me. But it says that every integer number is made of multiplying prime numbers together.
Okay.
And so prime numbers, in this sense, can be viewed as building blocks for the whole integer number set.
Sounds cool to me.
There you go. Oh, have we got that?
Yes. So
Have we got that?
Fundamental theory of arithmetic. Oh,
That's pretty fine. I can't really read it.
fundamental
Arithmetic.
theory of arithmetic. The fundamental theory of arithmetic states that every positive integer except the number 1 can be represented in exactly one way apart from rearrangement as a product of one or more primes.
There you go. So
love it.
6. It's 2 and 3. 2 and
Yeah.
3. Primes.
Yeah. So it's the same concept. You're like going to a lower level of like
Well, it's
deconstructing.
Yeah, but these are prime numbers, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing let's forget about programming and ones and zeros and languages and paradigms. This is just the integers, the numbers, which have been around
for a while.
But
numbers are just a construct. Numbers are a way to communicate. Numbers are a way to refer to quantities in a way that they become understandable to us.
Mm-hmm.
The same as like distance and like time and like everything that can be measured is completely relative to like an agreed upon unit that we all like say, yeah, now we're gonna use this as a like fundamental base, and we're gonna base everything upon this.
Yes.
But there is no inherent like it doesn't mean shit. Like if you take the thing out of the context, it's totally meaningless.
Okay.
So what's the
What are you getting at? What are you getting at?
I'm trying to understand what's the real origin for a need for numbers. Trying to like get to the point where like like if you think about like measures, right? Like the meter is like based on a specific like stick that is in a museum, and like now we go like, okay, everything is gonna be based on that. And 2 of those are gonna be like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's a bit different from this idea of integers.
Yes.
Okay? Like 1 meter, that's the 1 is the integer, let's say.
Yeah.
But the meter, that's just human interpretation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And so this fundamental theory of arithmetic is about the one part. It's not about the human interpretation part. And so a lot of number theory, which I think is what you're kind of trying to poke a stick at, is based on ideas about integers and just logic to do with integers.
You know what my favorite number is? 0.
Okay.
How is that even a number?
It is. It is.
Yeah, it is. How? How did it contribute to the numbers?
It reduces things to 0. And that's like one of the fundamental operations. And that's also a number theory idea, these concepts of like, what can you take a number by and multiply it by so it becomes itself. And that's 1. And then you've got concepts in logic. How can you take a number and multiply it by something and make it be 0? And that's 0. And so when you start having these logical thoughts about numbers and how they behave, then you enter this world of number theory, which is the classification of how integers behave and how certain sets of numbers behave under certain operations. And that's where a lot of these fundamental theories of arithmetic and different mathematical ideas come from.
I don't know. I guess my struggle is like, how can we be sure that like one is actually 1?
The definition is that.
Yes, but definitions keep changing. And they are definitions, so they are relative to...
No, the definition of 1 is the identity operation.
Okay.
So what do I multiply 2 by to get back 2?
1.
There you go. So that's how we know. So it's looking at a problem not from a interpretation point of view, but from a logic point of view.
Okay, yeah. And my point of view was logic. I don't know.
You're uncomfortable with this.
I'm
Why?
very uncomfortable with this because I don't think numbers.
Well, because you think that doesn't matter. This is the cold hard logic.
Yes.
And I think this is why mathematics for some people is bliss, because it's very logic based, and for some people it's too rigid, too constructed, too many rules or something. And for some people, I love it. I love it.
I think the perception of what we measure with numbers is something that might change, making numbers themselves malleable in a way.
Malleable? What do you mean by malleable? They're going to change?
The meaning of it. Think about like the perception of the self. And like, are you one? Are you many? Are you nothing? What are you? In theory, you're one. But if you think of like you being part of a collective global like human race or collective consciousness or whatever, then you're not one, you're a fraction. And if you think about yourself as everything that you're ever going to be able to experience, then you're not one, but you're like infinite, like you're everything, because you're never going to be able to experience anything outside of yourself. So what's one then? Like you're at the same time everything that ranges from like negative infinite to positive
Francesco,
infinite.
to communicate all those ideas, you used certain numbers.
Yes.
And those numbers are the way you communicated those ideas. And
That's
those
my
numbers
point.
belong to logic. And to communicate that logic, you need those numbers to be defined. So they're not going to change. It is logic. That's why, if you want to go down in history as a great scientist, you come up with a mathematical formula, because that's not going to change.
Okay.
There's constants that are fun.
Mm-hmm.
They come up in physics, and they seem to be like constants that make up the universe. And these are numbers with interpretations, well, with measurable quantities behind them. And people think they're kind of static. But things like Pythagoras' theorem, like that's a brutal logic statement.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Pythagoras' theorem is not going to change.
No.
But the ground on which that stands...
No.
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 Just no. Okay.
It's not up for interpretation. It's not up for division. It's not up for because it's logic. I can't. I mean, might sound a bit arrogant by saying that, but it's based on logic, and it is because of that all these ideas come out, and that's what I think. Yeah, number theory is what you want to get interested in, because that's like bolted down logic, and you build on top of that logic, and you use these ideas to prove things. And so you have proofs, and mathematical proofs are like just bulletproof ideas.
So there's no layer below numbers. Like you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, but then you get to numbers, and that's never going to change. So it's the ground upon which everything is like funded, and there is no deeper layer than numbers.
I don't know. It's
because
logic.
if there was, then numbers might change.
I think it would just go back to numbers, doesn't it?
It's logic, really. There's nothing below that, those concepts.
Okay. Interesting. Because like everything goes down to numbers and then logic. Or they're the same thing.
They're the same thing. One's a representation of another, really. In a way, actually. Am I comfortable with that? Maybe I'm not. Logic is a bit of a more solid concept. I don't know. I'm not a pure mathematician. Actually, I'm not really a mathematician. I'm
okay, what are you?
Engineer.
Okay.
So I just use numbers to get a job done. Yeah.
What's the job you're working on right now?
I write computer programs for scientists, and scientists that are experimental, like numerical scientists. So they like to use modeling. They like to use computers to model physical phenomena.
What kind of physical phenomena?
How planets behave over long time scales.
Oh, I do like that. Let's talk about that.
That's very different to numbers.
It's connected somehow. Because you use numbers to get to that point where you can...
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't
well, it's not based on... you're asking for like something below logic statements to do with number theory, which is a very sort of rigorous logical domain. Okay. And then the engineering domain for using, let's say, contemporary mathematics to model physics, that's built up from the fundamental ideas that pure mathematicians sort of have drilled into and and come up with ideas from. And so you get these more contemporary ideas of modeling equations and evolving equations, and how you can use those equations to code up physical phenomena in a computational setting, like with a C program. You can discretize the equations, and then you can do all sorts of fun modeling tricks, and what you get out is kind of interesting because it's got a mathematical structure to it, and you need to know about that to differentiate, are you actually seeing good results from your modeling program, or are you seeing mathematical noises because of your discretization methods? What are the weaknesses of the numerical method you've chosen in general? And it becomes like this interesting finding the right tool for the right job problem.
How much can you simulate? Like, how big or small scale can you go? And how accurate can it be?
My domain is I don't have a good breadth of all the scales that numerical modeling can do. But there are different equations for different domains.
Okay.
And so you ask, like, you had this quantum mechanics professor on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they use vastly different equations to what I use, which is fluid mechanics equations. And the equations of fluid mechanics are for how fluid flows, just like this, not for subatomic.
No. I was thinking about something else. I was remembering, like, some years ago, somebody told me that they could create a simulation of a roulette wheel.
Right.
And the idea was that they were able to create a software that would replicate an actual roulette wheel. And somebody was using a laser measure device to detect the speed and the angle of the ball. And using that information and putting it into the software, they were able to simulate where the ball would land on the roulette faster than reality.
Okay.
But that would need to take into account so many variables, like the material of the ball and the type of wood and the friction and the angle and the speed and so many things. And doing that live faster than reality, is that possible?
You've got so many.
That's what I meant when I was saying, like, how detailed, like, the simulation can be.
As detailed as you like. As detailed as you like. And then the question becomes, are my algorithms that I'm going to throw into the computer or give the computer, are they actually solvable? Like, is this possible to be worked out in real time? And that's how a lot of computer games work now. They take the equations of fluid mechanics or of some complex thing.
So what's fluid mechanics?
Like how fluids behave.
What?
How fluid flows, right? Anyway, my broad point is you can take equations and let's say for certain details you need all these bits of the equation, and you can just cut off a certain amount, so it's computationally a lot easier to calculate these bits rather than all these bits. But you don't lose much accuracy by getting rid of these bits. And so this is a common trick used in something like computer games where you need to have no latency, especially in multiplayer games, right? You really want, no latency for the gamers. So you kind of work out how you can do the shading for the sunlight against the building in sort of a reasonable way. So it's not 100% accurate, but for our perception off a screen, of something you're going to look at very quickly, it's good enough. And like there's a whole industry based on that, and that's computer games.
What would it take to the point where that becomes as accurate as reality? What kind of like technological improvements would we need?
Again, it depends on the scale you're looking at and the domain you're talking about. It's not as easy to answer as just 42.
42. 42 is a great answer.
And I think you're looking for 42.
I'm looking for like the very the thing that I keep bringing up all the time, which is like we might live in a simulation, but to be this, for this to be a simulation, the computing power would have been to be like, you know, massive. And like, yeah, is that even like achievable?
Yes. It's happening right now.
Interesting. What do you mean?
I'm not calling this simulation, but the world is happening. The universe is happening.
So something is actually doing the math for this to happen.
What the universe is.
So the universe might just be a gigantic computer then. Or the evolution of what we nowadays call computers. No?
I don't know. Keep on going. What are your reasons for thinking it's all a simulation?
Well, it's whatever it is, as you said, it's happening. So what's that?
No, I'm just looking at the prime factorization of 680.
Oh, wow.
So
That's 680. It's a good number to factorize. Yeah, I mean, everything is happening, as you said. So whatever is making it happen, it's working. Cool. I never thought about it in these terms. Thanks. It's it's obvious, but it's not that obvious, right?
yes.
Can we actually know what your software does, Julian? Like what you're building, what the functions are? Because I didn't get to hear it last time you were here.
Right. Okay. That's an easier question than all the ones I've had up until now. Yeah. So we do like research into something called mantle convection and lithospheric deformation. So these are processes that happen from the surface of the planet on Earth down to about 660 kilometers below us. And it's some of the main ways that it's the main way to capture the physics that's happening of the ground, of the stuff beneath us. So you've got heat in the middle of the planet and occurring within the crust and all of the planet that wants to radiate out somehow. You've got gravity going on. You've got the ways different rock is layered within the structure of the planet, and all that makes some interesting dynamics that we can model. And so we can use computers to model that, but it's a big approximation. It's not anything too accurate. And yeah, we can just test basic ideas of...
Approximation means it uses like statistics?
No. Approximation meaning it's not 100% as the universe is. Okay. So we can't get the exact answer, right? And we're not even sure that we've got the exact physics, the exact ideas for how things happen down there.
Because there is no way to go and check.
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
What's the application of that research?
So it's very just fundamental research for understanding. It's about understanding how large scales places of the planet and smaller scale places of the planet behave over geological timescales. So geological timescales are like 10,000 years plus. These are big, long timescales that you don't usually think about in one's life. And so it's really, I'm not a geologist, but I've been working in this space for a while, and it's really nice to think in those timescales and meet people that are fascinated by things that are just interested in far longer timescales than what they're having for dinner tonight and the news cycle and things like that.
That's super cool. Like if you think about how many times Earth has like broken into pieces and formed new continents and then like merged again and then like broke again, like it's really cool.
How far ahead have you calculated or simulated so far?
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer because we don't like throw everything together and fast forward. That's not really what I do. There is a group at Sydney University where I work that kind of have something that is a bit more in that direction. And they create, as you were talking about, I think it's a Wilson cycle where the continents all bunch up and then separate and bunch up and separate. So they look at all the clues that they can to how the arrangement of 2 bits of the planet were in the geological record going back in time. And so they stitch everything back together and then they take a shot at that time back in the past, and then they get other pieces of information and put that into their snapshot in the past. And anyway, they get this whole catalogue of events that happen in geological timescales, and you get these lovely movies of how the Earth behaved up until now according to all the history they've input into their models.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find one of their videos on YouTube. Ooh.
Yeah, I've seen some of those.
It's called, the software is G-plates, and look for reconstructions. Plate reconstructions.
I've seen some of those, just pictures. I haven't seen the videos. And as you said, there is no way of knowing how accurate it is.
I think the third one looked pretty good. This one. To me. Yeah, let's see that. There you go. So you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, that's 160 million years ago. That's the MA. And these are just the shapes are the plates as we know now. And the arrows are the velocity vectors of how those plates are traveling. And this isn't...
India just slotted.
Yeah,
like
this is what creates the Himalayas. India just shoots into Eurasia.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's a quick model, and it shows, like, in the first order, let's say, what's going on. It doesn't show the details, which is what you're drilling into and wanting to know. But with those...
But it's just like the most recent...
Right? Yeah. So with those first order models, that's just on the surface, right? And this is used for other codes, like the code that I write as a surface velocity input for how things were 163 million years ago. So we can look at a little grid in that space and think of how were the rocks piled up back then, and what happens if we put a velocity as, when India shoots up. We can say, okay, if we were modeling India and we think we know how the column of land mass that makes up India at 163 million years looked like, and then we put that velocity on top of it from this model, what would happen? And from that way, you know, this is how numerical science goes. You have a lot of these modeling ideas and you look for any data that you can put into it, and you've got to be really open and skeptical about, is the data going in? Is my model any good? How can I check it? Do I have anything to check it against? If not, is what I'm doing even worth it? And you've got to watch out for making big, bold statements about your work. So anyway, that's plate reconstructions, and that's really cool stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And this can be applied to something else, I'm assuming, or is it your software or your research?
Oh well, lots of there are many applications for this kind of data, because it's used in exploration mining, and that's a huge, valuable sort of field. But a lot of the methods that are used to get this data and input it into the computer code or the simulations, let's say, is like cutting edge computer science methods. And the communications of those ideas are pretty cutting edge. And how to generate all that data that's coming in and feed it into the model is like a very sophisticated, active place of research. So how you even model these situations is you generally have an algorithm that like models the equations, but that algorithm is going to run really slow if you ask for more detail. And this kind of goes to our point previously, that you can get as much detail from your equations, but when you put it into the computer, maybe the computer it doesn't have enough RAM, can't model it enough. So you use like many computers that are all connected by really fast interconnects for the RAM to simulate the model. And there's a huge computer science and numerical modeling kind of area of expertise that you can delve into. So you can do the geology, you can do the computer science, you can do the numerical modeling. So it's a really fun space to work in. And on top of that, there's the communication of all those ideas to students and
which
to
is
anyone
tricky,
else. Yeah.
I think. It's yeah, I don't know. When it comes down to computers, sorry, I was distracted because I kept thinking about the fact that everything that is happening is actually happening, and that kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, really? Like, how come I know? So it's like I'm overthinking this. But going back to computers, can't help stop thinking about the fact that I lost some cryptocurrency at some point, and there is no amount of like computer processing power that can brute force a crypto wallet. And when you said like, oh, well, we need to put all the RAM together, to like made me think of like botnet attacks. I don't know if you're familiar with those.
These are like, you know, people that purport to be Russian mobsters that can crack your bank account details with the power of their farms or something, their compute farms.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. I've heard of the idea, but I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, but still, like, there is no way of breaking into a wallet, crypto wallet, where you lost the password.
No. I mean, there's a way, but how feasible that is in your lifetime is remote. So that's a big idea. There is the known way, but that brute force way is just not tractable for your life. Yeah.
I mean, if you start today and technology advances, at some point, maybe when you're like in your 90s, you might be close to...
Crypto is going to be worth a lot then.
Yeah.
Right.
Lucky you. Like, it's the savings account. You can't touch it.
It's like
No
a
one
savings,
can touch it.
but I need to start working on cracking it now, in order to unlock it when I'm like 105. It kind of sucks because like, and it's not just me. I know a lot of people who have lost their investments because of like, yeah, there's no way of, yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't circulate in the system as well when they're lost and locked up, right? Like you can't, no one can.
No one can. No,
touch
they're
it,
gone.
so.
No, but the really annoying thing is that like if you lose your Bitcoin wallet, like key, phrase, whatever it's called, you have no access to the wallet and you cannot even see the amount of Bitcoin that you have.
Yeah.
If you don't have a backup, like if you don't have a wallet on your like let's say you change phone or like you uninstall the app.
I think you can still maybe see the amount that you have through one of those trackers. I mean, it depends on which cryptocurrency you're talking about.
Yeah.
But there are ones that are transparent. So you can actually see your public ledger on the chain. So you can come to some understanding of how much money is flowed in and out of your account. How much Bitcoin anyway.
I hate the fact that I can actually see that because I see the money that I have, but I don't actually have it. So I can only see the number and the number keeps growing and I'm like, fuck, I lost the password. Like if I had lost the whole access to that thing, I'll go like, okay, it's lost.
Yeah.
It's like you have like $100 bill and you lose it. It's like, okay, it's lost. But if you have like, I don't know, a safe in your house and you know that there is like $1 million in there and you lost the key and there is no way of getting into that safe, but you still have it, but you just cannot access it. It's just like, this really sucks.
It does. It does.
I would rather than like to steal the whole safe, right?
It does suck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a thought.
What? That's the way it is.
You just pass it on to your kids.
Yeah.
Your child and your grandkids, they'll be like, oh, it's grandpa's, cryptocurrency from 200 years ago.
Yeah, they're gonna like, fuck him. Why did he lose the password on that
No one
thing?
will believe you, Grandpa.
Interesting. I need to have kids to give them this burden thing.
Wow.
Do you have any crypto investments?
Yes.
What do you do? What do you invest on?
Oh, just a bit of some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, some other stuff, but not too much.
Mm-hmm. How do you choose which cryptocurrency to invest on?
Well,
Gut feeling or? Yeah,
gut feeling.
that's how I invest.
Yeah, no. Have you read the white papers of any of these projects?
Yeah. Ripple.
Like,
I read.
You read some white papers and you go, "Ooh, this sounds good. Ooh, I'll send like $50 that way, see what happens," and you get interested. It's good fun.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's good fun.
I have some XRP, some Stellar Lumens, and there are a few cryptocurrencies that I find interesting, like Theta tokens.
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin over here. He
is
loves
a big fan of Dogecoin.
That just had a bit of a drop, right? Because
I sold all of it just before the drop.
And now you can buy again.
Buy back, yeah.
very good.
He's trading Dogecoin
very good. I think we should get
efficiently.
him on as a trader. Genius
Yeah.
then.
You can kind of read the charts now.
Hey,
You should start your own crypto trading show. I told you many times that will be a hit. What do you know anything about the fact that like crypto, like blockchain, could be not sustainable energy wise compared to like traditional transaction, old school Visa, MasterCard kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's the first cut of Bitcoin is the first cut for a big distributed blockchain technology, and it relied on this algorithm called proof of work. And proof of work means you need to be having computers running this algorithm wasting power a lot. Well, not wasting, but using power to generate this money. And that was the first cut of it. First cut at that idea as a way for sustaining the blockchain. But now all these other ideas have come out, and proof of stake is this new idea where you don't have to be burning. I don't know. I know of it, but I don't know the underlying principles. It's about staking your crypto that performs a similar action to the proof of work without actually performing those algorithms, without having to generate so much, without having to burn through so much energy. And so this new generation
what
of
does staking mean?
Currencies.
In that context.
Staking means giving your stake of the cryptocurrency to the algorithm to validate another transaction. So there's some part of the algorithm where you stake and say, I trust that this transaction coming in is legit, and I'm staking my amount on that to validate that. And that validation is the thing that proof of work does. So it's proof of stake. And so by doing that validation without churning through an algorithm and wasting energy, you get rid of that problem of wasting energy. And so this idea of proof of stake, it's not a one size, there's not a single algorithm for it. Different cryptocurrencies have different forms of proof of stake, and some are just coming onto the scene now, like Cardano.
Yeah. But they started like years ago.
They did.
And did they change the way it works, or they started like with a new?
No, they
always
it's I think it's made by some Italian professor, actually. He was the brains behind it.
Cardano. Sounds like an Italian word. Yeah.
Does it mean anything? No, it doesn't.
I think it
Cardano?
does. It's like, it means chain, but not really chain. Can you look it up?
Cardano in Italian.
Yeah, I think it's like, you know that some motorbikes have a chain and some other bikes have a Cardano.
A belt. We say belt.
Yeah. Cardano. I'm not sure. I might be saying bullshit, but
Cardare. Anyway,
Cardano. A word rings a bell. I'm not sure what I'm talking about.
there's Cardano is one cryptocurrency that's been around for a while. That's got a proof of stake algorithm. Ethereum plans to have a big update in the future, which is called Ethereum 2, and that's going to have a proof of stake mechanism behind it. So they're going to transition from proof of work to proof of stake.
Is Bitcoin going to do the same thing?
I don't know. But the idea is that there's a pathway to not consume as much power, because I think the whiz kids behind all these cryptocurrencies and blockchain specifically have realized that there's different ways to do this as they keep on prodding the idea, and so they've found proof of stake is the way to go. And there's hybrid models too, and who knows what they're going to come up with in the future. But that idea of Bitcoin using as much energy as Iceland is an alarming statistic, but I don't think that's going to be the state of affairs moving forward in time.
Optimizing, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess the efficiency of the petrol efficiency of the very first car was not,
Exactly. So I think it's a wonderful headline for the media to run with, because it makes everyone go, "Da."
Brilliant. Should probably invest on Cardano then.
I don't want to give financial advice. I'm not that. Yeah, no, the price of that has shot up in the last few months, I think.
Yeah, it went up a lot yesterday and a few days ago.
You're very up to
Yeah,
date.
this one's on the pulse.
Yeah. I think it goes a lot with like feelings that like trading of crypto, like, and it goes in waves,
Completely.
come in years. Like there is no real grounds on which, like, what's the reason why Bitcoin goes up and down? Is like people decided to trust it and believe in it, and then at some point they lose faith and it drops, and then they go like, oh, Bitcoin, yeah, sure, let's do it again.
There's a bit of a consensus that there's this thing called the halving in Bitcoin.
What's that? The halving?
Yeah, the reward that miners get for doing proof of work to validate the system, to uphold the blockchain, they get a reward for that. And the reward is a certain number of BTC. And at a certain amount of transactions, I think that number halves. And so that's called the halving.
Interesting.
And so this halving has taken place like every 4-ish or so years. And if you look at the halving cycle and the peaks and troughs of Bitcoin's price fluctuation, but in a logarithmic scale, because otherwise it's pretty crazy to look at, there's some kind of correlation between the peaks and the halving. And I'm not being some like wow guru saying this. Like it's a bit of a solid idea that there's this kind of halving idea that's behind crypto. But yeah, the media cycle plays into it big time because the media talks about it and then things change, and now Elon's getting in on it, and that's getting a whole new...
Well, Elon is getting onto so many things.
Yeah.
It's a bit worrying, some of his projects.
Yeah.
He's working on.
But anyway, the more mainstream it becomes, the more the dynamics are going to change completely. So
how far are we from the day when I'm going to be able to like pay for my pizza with Bitcoin?
Can't you already do that?
You can already do that.
I mean, not extensively, not everywhere.
Yeah,
it's not the status quo.
I think Dogecoin is going to come first.
You really love that shit.
Actually, one of the salsa schools that I used to go to, I think they've just started accepting Bitcoin for their classes.
I've been in a taxi that was like
awesome.
accepting Bitcoins.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's like one taxi. And it's one school or whatever. Like it's one, like when is going to become standard or at least like vastly.
I thought you were going to ask the questions you're asking at the start of this podcast. Like, what's beneath that? How can we get below that?
Oh, now we're going like above.
Yeah. No, it's going to break out, I think. There's going to be more of those one taxis. There's going to be more of those salsa schools. There's going to be more.
No, but I mean, I was just asking if you, like, from the top of your mind, can come up with a prediction. Like, we gut feeling. Like, what do you think would be a realistic time frame to get to that point? Because progression of like human development has been like ramping up like crazy.
What, to buy a pizza?
Yeah.
I reckon you could find a place that sells pizza in Sydney for Bitcoin. I reckon you could.
I'm sure there is one at least that. Okay. My question is, you know how before COVID nobody was using QR codes, but they were everywhere already, and nobody was like, yeah, I can be bothered. And then after COVID, now everyone uses them. So we are in the pre-COVID QR code era of Bitcoin, and my question is, when are we gonna get to the post-COVID QR code era of Bitcoin?
So let's change hats and be crazies. Okay, I'm gonna put on the crazy hat.
I'm gonna.
You got another hat?
No, I'm gonna wear this.
Okay, let's do this.
Actually, I paid Julian in cryptocurrency the other day after he bought me a beer.
Which one did you use?
Crypto.com currency, which is the platform we uses, both of us.
Oh, that's cool.
And I just sent him $15 or $17 worth of Crow.
That's interesting because those $17. The day you made the transaction, like how much Crow was it? Do you remember?
It was like probably 20 cents per Crow or something. I can't remember. Maybe.
I think it was like 60 Crow. But your point
let's say
that the value of Crow compared to our fiat money, the Oz dollar, changed
very
in that
often.
time.
I mean, yeah. So the Aussie dollar is way more stable. So if I give you $60, crows today, I'm giving you $17. But if I give you 60 crows tomorrow, it might be like $25 or
That's
like
right.
10.
That's right.
And isn't that frightening?
Yes, it is. But, and this is why I put on the crackpot hat. So you asked for a time frame. I got no idea. But one of the things forcing that time that might happen is this kind of idea that inflation is occurring because traditional states can just print more money.
Yes.
And print more money.
Which
and
is true.
print more money. And print more money. And print more money. And so the value of the currency is going to decrease as that goes on because they'll just print more and print more and print more.
Cryptos are like finite.
And cryptos have a finite
amount.
So you can't get that sort of theoretical extreme of print more money.
Yeah, you cannot generate more bitcoins. There's only a certain amount of bitcoins.
Yeah. So that's one of the driving forces for your utopia question or your crypto utopia question of when you can pay for everything with whatever crypto.
At least have the option.
Right. Well, one of the forces that is driving that epoch change is going to be like the devaluation of fiat currencies because banks can just print more. Central banks.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I need to research about this. But like, how did humanity go from like trading seashells into trading gold coins, and then from gold coins to worthless coins to which we assign a value?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, me neither. But it's interesting because it's gonna be the same. Like how we go from like a piece of paper that has some commonly agreed on value to something that is not even physical. Like it's a next step of evolution of currency.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more to do with the credibility, isn't it? Like
everything is a fairy tale.
It's so much
everything
manipulation by government, and they can do whatever they want. But
this is why I have the crackpot hat on.
And for example, if you live in Argentina or Venezuela or something, your currency is fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's another thing. If you live in Argentina, the bank gives you like 20% interest on your deposits because the inflation is so crazy that the currency loses like 50% of value like in the same amount of time.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's what happens when you don't have good financial management because of whatever's going on, but inflation takes hold.
And it's also interesting to notice how little control over these things nations have. In the sense that, like, there is a reason in the world, and we covered this in other episodes of the podcast, in the world, we have a lot of attempted micronations, right? Like people that go like, okay, I'm going to be independent. This is my nation. And
you had Emperor George, right?
Yeah, and also Emperor Eric.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they sit in this chair?
Emperor George, yes.
Awesome.
Emperor Eric was on Zoom because he was from Canada.
Okay.
Brilliant guys. Very fun to talk to.
Yeah.
Very nice. But there is no way of... Some countries even get actual independence based on where their land is. Because if the land is not like some, like for instance, the oil rig that there is like on the west coast of England is in international waters. And this guy just went like, okay, now this is my kingdom. And England couldn't do anything. But one thing is to obtain independency, and one thing is to be recognized by other nations. And that's where it gets tricky, because no nation is going to accept that, like, it's going to recognize, acknowledge you as a nation, which makes your independence useless. Even if you can, and still it's very rare to get to that point, but even if you get to that point, which is like pretty impressive already, they make it useless. Because it's like a coalition of all the nations together go like, okay, we're not talking to that guy. And they become useless. But a currency is different, because as you said, it works on consensus. And if people start using it, because it's something that the governments have no control over. If people start using it and they consequently they stop using real like quote unquote real money, what do we need a government for again? When you get to that point, like the sole purpose of a government today is to draw lines on maps and like control the money, like control the banks. And when you have no banks, you need no government. To an extent.
Yeah, to an extent. I don't think it's that simple.
You cut down like 80% of whatever the government works for.
It becomes a bit more specific, let's say. But you don't like.
I mean, they're going to focus
get rid
on
of the government and say anarchy, bring it.
No, not anarchy, but they're going to focus on, I don't know, public safety and all of that. But like the thing that drives all of those other little things is control over money.
Yes.
Once you lose that, it's tricky to control masses.
Yeah. But, you know, control over money is big. I don't think it's happening so well right now as is in places like Argentina, Italy, Australia. Like there's tax loopholes everywhere. There's,
of course.
Big funny well, yeah, that's why I got the Lupa hat on.
I like your hat. Are you into hats?
It's not so good on this chair actually, because it's like button up. Yeah, the Heisenberg hat.
Are you into hats?
I am, but I don't wear them enough anymore.
You should have brought more hats.
I did. I just brought two because it was difficult. Two hats, two helmets.
But yeah, thanks for the helmet. That was fun. You're also into pizza. Let's talk about pizza. Let's talk about pizza.
I like pizza. Let's talk about pizza.
I tried your pizza. It's pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried your pizza. Wasn't bad.
It wasn't good either. I'm not a chef. How did you get into pizza?
So, during COVID, I got into baking, like half the world did.
Yeah.
And bread making is really fun. It requires you to do something every now and then. And in the end, your house smells good. You get a fresh loaf. You don't have to buy it from the store. And that was wonderful. So that was my entry into baking. And then it occurred to me just a few months ago that I should give making pizza a go, because to improve my baking, this is what really triggered it, actually. To improve my baking, I bought a pizza stone for the oven.
Oh, that's great.
Right? And that's because you want the really hot base of the oven, the pizza stone, to give your dough this big puff.
That actually boosts
temperature shock.
That boosts the overall temperature of the whole oven, actually.
Yeah? Yeah. Well, it gets bloody hot.
Yeah.
Hotter than the oven.
Yeah.
Hotter than the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gives it this real good shock for your bread. Anyway, it's called a pizza stone. And I just thought, one day I've got to try pizza. And so I tried pizza. I got the recipe off, I think, some YouTubers, some Italian guys that I followed, and gave it a go. The recipe is essentially the same as bread, just a bit more olive oil. And you use a bit less yeast and you let it rise a lot longer and you cut it into small dough balls. And then you were around for the fun part. We made the dough balls into shapes and there's a whole technique to that.
Yeah. There's different ways to do it.
There's different ways.
Have you ever played with like different kind of flours?
Yes.
Which one is your favorite? Taste-wise.
Taste-wise, you have to find your own, but I like a bit of wholemeal, a lot of white, and a bit of rye. Just works well.
Oh, rye is good. I tend to avoid white flour in general. Like, it doesn't talk to me.
Most things are white flour.
Yeah.
Like white flour is you want that gluten from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get a wholemeal loaf,
yeah,
it's normally not 100% wholemeal.
You can do 100% wholemeal.
You can, yeah. But I'm talking about in the shops.
Yeah,
in the supermarkets. Yeah.
It's tricky. In Italy, I used to love this kamut.
Kamut.
There was, you know what it is?
Yeah, I remember it when I lived in Italy. There was like kamut.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? And it was some milled sort of brown thing.
Grain.
Yeah.
I think
pretty good.
Bread in Europe in general tastes so much better for some reason.
Well, it's done in a completely different way. The water is different. The grains are different.
And bakers are respected. I think in Australia there's Baker's Delight and then there's Coles.
I don't eat bread here unless like comes from like a trusted source.
Yeah, no, there are some good bread places, but it's more of a high end thing. It's not like generally good.
No, if you go to the supermarket, it's just like you buy rubber, like it's
Well, they've worked out like how to cut costs, right? So they don't need bakers on site. This is kind of like the government and money regulation. They've worked out that they don't need bakers on site, so supermarkets don't invest in it. They get this centralized place just to make up the dough balls, freeze them, distribute them, and then bake them on site. And these dough balls aren't that nice.
No, they're not. But even the one that they try to make look nice, they're not.
No.
And there's like a million ingredients in. Like if you read, like there shouldn't be ingredients on a bread loaf.
No.
It should be like just water, flour, salt. That's it. Like and yeast, if any. But yeah, no, it's like a ingredients list long. Like
it's not good.
Not good.
It's not good. Yeah. I really miss being in Europe and having bread. Good bread. The best bread I had, I think, was in Germany. That was like
everywhere in Europe.
Good, just dark, thick bread.
Can't go wrong. Like Italians might hate me for saying that, but can't go wrong with bread in Europe in general. Like
in general,
yeah, it's just good bread.
Yeah. I remember once when I was living in Italy, they had this section of the supermarket where all the bread was, and it was divided in two. And for some reason, they had bread without salt.
Oh, yeah. Was it in Tuscany?
Yeah. I was shocked.
Yeah, that's only Tuscany. Tuscany does that.
Tuscany does that.
Tuscany.
It's Tuscany, huh?
Yeah. Rest of Italy does like salted bread.
Yes.
Yeah. But see, it's even like less, like 3 ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to avoid carbs for some reason that I don't clearly understand. I do things for no reasons. Sometimes.
Well, then you wouldn't understand.
I mean, why am I not eating bread?
I don't know.
I'm just going through a no bread phase.
Maybe because you haven't found the bread you like to eat.
Yes.
No, but even when I was in Italy, even though I like bread and I mostly eat, when it comes down to bread, I always eat like wholemeal bread. And when it's pizza, it's kamut. Used to be. Now it's just like whatever pizza I can find. Yeah, but no, I have stopped. Even in Italy, I just bread. Don't feel like it. It's weird.
Yeah, well, different breads have different like characteristics and
Absolutely.
different chemical compositions. So
Yeah.
you know, if you're gluten intolerant, white floured breads are not going to agree with you at all.
What's the next step of your baking career? Like with your pizza?
In my career, what I want to focus on next is seeds and things to like make the bread a bit more fancy. It's all about the fanciness at some point.
At some point, you need to have that extra.
Yeah, but I want to perfect the
factor.
pizza night too.
Okay.
Pizza nights are hard, especially within a home kitchen, right? Because you've got one oven.
Have you ever considered like squared pizzas to maximize the surface?
Yeah. Because I've got a square pizza stone, so it makes sense to do a square pizza.
Like Pezzi, yes. Something like that. Pezzi means... In Sicily, we have this thing. I don't know. Have you been to Sicily?
Yeah.
So in Palermo, I don't know like if they call it the same. Yeah, I think they call it the same in the rest of Sicily. But anyway, in Palermo, like you go to this... are they bakeries? They're called rosticcerie.
Rosticceria, I remember those.
Yeah, and there you can buy Pezzi.
Pezzi
means
like a pezzi di pane.
Pezzi di rosticceria, which
Pezzi
are
di rosticceria.
mostly made of bread. And the pezzi means like piece.
Piece.
Yeah. So give me like 2 pieces, and they give you like these pieces, this pezzi. And they're like, I mean, last time I was there, they were like 60, 70 cents each, and they're like this big. And you have different options, different varieties. Like there's a calzone, there's rollo, there's like a pizzetta, arancini, and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure arancini qualifies as pezzi, but yeah. Anyway,
I like this idea. Why?
There's a lot of weird ones like ravazzata and mattonella and all of that. Anyway,
yum.
They're good.
Why doesn't this exist here? Rent's just too crazy high.
It's not part of the culture, I think. There are a few arancini places. There's one in Marrickville. I tried those. They're like not
But the
great.
one I tried with you in Sicily was the size of the fist, or bigger than the size of the fist.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think also the problem is that like some cooking techniques that they use in Sicily or in Europe are not like allowed in other countries and stuff like that. Like, for instance, we do the panica meusa. There's like, it's bread stuffed with milza, which is milza. Milza is the spleen. No, spleen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I had that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. But that's cooked in strutto, which is like it's lard. Can you look up strutto? What's the STRUTTO? Yeah, so it's like sort of like organs boiled in lard or fried in lard. I'm not sure what the cooking process is, but like there are certain things that you cannot do, like intestine,
I think
for instance.
you can do them, right? You can't ban a cooking technique, but you can't market it, right? As being, pezzi di strutto.
No, but I mean, if you cook it in a different way, it's not going to taste the same.
Oh, right. If you cook it in a different way,
Yeah, with different ingredients. And if you cannot source those ingredients, or if you're not allowed to sell those ingredients.
Yeah. Well, if you can't cook with those ingredients, it's not going to come out the same.
I don't know, like for hygiene problem, like some cuisines, they have these like techniques where you like put like some meat underground for a week and let it like slowly cook or whatever, and like in some countries it's like, oh, that's not really allowed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but
not
it
for a
sounds
week,
like
but
just
yeah.
pezzi in rosticceria.
Yeah, no, they should be fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, pezzi should be fine, but stigiola might not be.
Sticchiola?
Stigiola are like intestines.
Yeah.
And they're roasted on a very rusty and like carbonized grill. But I haven't seen that. Like it comes down to hygiene as well. Like intestines are dirty by default.
Yeah.
And in some countries, not really. I don't know about Australia, but
Yeah,
I
I
looked
don't
it
know.
up and like I was like, nope, it's a bureaucratic nightmare.
It's like they're starting to ban all the food stores from outdoor ones in Thailand as well.
Yeah.
They're just trying to ban them.
In Europe, they tried to ban wooden fire ovens because of like it could be cancerogenic, and then there was like a riot in the streets. Like the fuck, that didn't
great.
happen. But yeah, European Union tried to do that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I think...
Give me my cancer. I want my wooden oven baked pizza.
Yeah. You need a rosticceria around here. That'd be great.
That'd be great. I mean, it's culturally like not really, because in Sicily it has its own place.
Fair enough.
But if you put it here, it's gonna be like not different than ethnic food. Like we have a lot of ethnic food here, and like it's gonna be the same as like burrito or a kebab or So
Yeah. I can understand. Or it's just going to be by the beach and it's going to be overpriced for what it is.
it's gonna be overpriced anyway. You cannot sell any food for 60 cents here, or even like $1. Yeah. But pezzi are very good.
Pezzi. All right.
And on that note, I'm really hungry.
Me too.
Let's go get some mangiare.
Mangiare. Da dove?
I don't know. Let's just go burger. We can figure out something better, I guess.
Eccellente.
What do you want? What do you fancy? Buonanotte, by the way, everyone.
Ciao tutti.
I forgot there was an audience here.
Burgers sound